Welcome back. Joining me now is independent senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Great to be with you.
It's great to have you here. Let's start off by talking about Russia and Ukraine. You just heard my conversation with Secretary Rubio. President Trump signaling he could be looking at the possibility of imposing new sanctions against Russia. Do you think that President Trump should impose new sanctions against Russia?
Well, I think what Trump has done over the last number of months has been an absolute disaster and been of real assistance to Putin and his horrible war against the people of Ukraine. When you announce to the world that it was Ukraine that started the war, when you insult Zelensky, who comes into the Oval Office, what you are telling Putin is, hey, we are on your side. For the first time in the 250-year history of the United States of America, we have a president who sides with a dictatorship, and that is outrageous. So I hope very much that in the coming weeks and months, we can reach some kind of a settlement, that Ukraine, of course, who have suffered so much in fighting Russia and defending democracy, is at the table. You cannot make a decision without the Ukrainian people abiding by that and being part of that process.
Okay, just to be very clear, though, do you think now is the time for sanctions, just quickly before we move on to tariffs?
I think we have got to do everything that we can to work with the rest of the world and tell Putin he cannot run over an independent country.
Okay, so not taking sanctions off the table. I do want to talk about tariffs now in the trade war. President Trump says he is taking an aggressive approach on the trade war because he says he wants to bring manufacturing back. He says he wants to bring jobs back for American workers. Senator, do you support temporary economic pain if it does mean bringing back manufacturing and leveling the playing field, as President Trump has argued?
Look, Kristen, you're talking to somebody who helped lead the effort against NAFTA, against PNTR with China. Because I understood back then that these were trade agreements written by corporate America so they could shut down thousands of plants in this country, lay off millions of workers, and move to low-wage countries where people were paid starvation wages. So if your question is, do I believe in selective tariffs, tariffs that make sense to protect American workers? I do. Do I support what Trump did, which is an arbitrary tariff on virtually every country on earth, which will raise prices substantially for ordinary Americans? No, I don't. So if you have selective tariffs, carefully thought out to protect American workers, yes, what Trump has done is, in my view, very, very wrong.
All right, let's talk about what you have called your oligarchy tour. You and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have been crisscrossing the country, warning of an emerging oligarchy. Senator, you told the New York Times, I'm going to read this quote, one of the aspects of this tour is to try to rally people to get engaged in the political process and run as independents outside of the Democratic Party. As someone who twice ran in the Democratic presidential primary, are you trying to strengthen the Democratic Party? Or, Senator, are you trying to start a third party?
Now, we're not trying to start a third party. What we're trying to do is strengthen American democracy, where faith in both the Democratic and Republican parties right now is extremely low. We are living, Kristen, in the richest country in the history of the world. And yet you got one person, Mr. Musk, who owns more wealth than the bottom 53% of American households. That is insane. That is oligarchy on steroids. Meanwhile, we have 60% of our workers living paycheck to paycheck. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major nation on earth. And we have over 20% of seniors in America living on $15,000 a year or less. What the American people are saying is that they want, and what our tour was about, is to say that they want an economy that works for all of us, not just for Mr. Musk and other billionaires. Now, my concern right now is you have Democrats appropriately, and I'm working with them, talking about Trump's movement toward authoritarianism, vigorously opposing the so-called reconciliation bill, to give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and make massive cuts to Medicaid, nutrition, and housing, opposing what Musk is doing to dismember the Social Security Administration and the Veterans Administration, making it harder for our veterans to get decent health care or benefits on time. We're on the same page. But what Democrats lack right now is a vision for the future. How are we going to provide a decent standard of living for a younger generation, which, everything being equal, will be poorer than their parents? How do we repair a broken health care system? How do we raise the minimum wage to a living wage? How do we deal with a corrupt campaign finance system that allows billionaires to control both political parties? Those are some of the issues that need to be discussed. And we're going out around the country right now asking people, working people, run for office. You want to run as a Democrat? Great. You want to run as an independent? That's great. But you got to get involved in the political process, because right now the two-party system is failing the working class of this country.
Let me ask you about something that your colleague, Senator Alyssa Slotkin, said. She said Democrats should stop using the term oligarchy because it's a phrase that doesn't resonate with all Americans. Are you missing a chance to speak to a wider audience, Senator?
Well, geez, we had 36,000 people out in Los Angeles, 34,000 people in Colorado. We had 30,000 people in Folsom, California, which is kind of a rural area. I think the American people are not quite as dumb as Ms. Slotkin thinks they are. I think they understand very well when the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. When big money interests are able to control both political parties, they are living in an oligarchy. And these are precisely the issues that have got to be talked about. Are you living in a democracy when Mr. Musk can spend $270 million to elect Trump and then becomes the most important person in government? Or AIPAC and other super PACs have enormous power over Democratic candidates? Those are issues that we have got to talk about. That is the reality of American society today. The very rich getting richer, working class people are struggling, 800,000 people sleeping out on the streets. If we don't address that issue, the American people will continue to turn their backs on democracy, because they're looking around them and they're saying, does anybody understand what I am going through? And unfortunately, right now, to a large degree, neither party does.
All right, Senator Bernie Sanders, I have a lot more questions. We are unfortunately out of time. We'll have you back soon. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.